Hello, I am Chris from Las Vegas, and I am super duper excited to do this last review. Now, what is this review going to be about? Today, it's going to be about wireless MIDI, and since it is December 31st, it's going to be about New Year's resolutions. Okay, so let's start with the wireless MIDI and New Year's resolutions and why those both go together. Oh, by the way, it's been a week since I've been back in Las Vegas. I just got back from Hawaii a week ago. It's taken a week for me to reacclimate to the climate of the desert. My skin is once again combination, and my hair is actually nice and dry and not like all washed out. For some reason, the humidity in Hawaii made my skin beautiful and it made my hair terribly washed out. Honestly, the first thing I did when we got back from Hawaii is I totally washed and totally put more blue in my hair as soon as I got home. So, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, I wanted to do something special with my studio. Now, most people, when they do New Year's resolutions, it's always about I'm going to be a nicer person, or I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to go on an exercise plan. I'm just like everybody else. I have resolutions like that too, but usually, like everybody else, if I do a workout program starting January 1st, I usually break off of it by February or March 1st. So if I'm going to do a fitness resolution, I usually do those a couple of months before January 1st, so I don't break off of it. Now, as far as my New Year's resolution for my studio, that is a different story. And that is why I want to talk about wireless MIDI. Now, right behind me, I have 4 Keytars from the 1980s. They're my favorite Keytars as far as Keytars with no necks. I like to call my football team of Keytars behind me. Now, right here is the Casio CZ1000. On top of that is the Korg Poly 800. On top of that is the Yamaha DX100. And on the very top is the Korg 707. Now, I'm going to use these 3 for my example of wireless MIDI today, and why I would like wireless MIDI in my studio. Now, a big thing with me and Keytars is that in my studio, it's comprised of a whole bunch of synthesizers and Keytars from the 1980s. Now, my biggest coolness thing that I love about the 1980s, of course, is the sound and what they were doing with synthesizers back then, what they were doing with Keytars back then. Now, the one thing that totally bugs my mate is the wires. Wires. Now, you may ask, what the heck is this? It's not a skirt for my Keytars, although that might be a good idea to sew skirts for my keyboard stands. My sweetheart hates all the wires. See all the wires? Makes them crazy. I love the wires. I think they're innovative. I think that they're 80s. But my sweetheart abhors them. So I do have an ambition to make my Keytars as wireless as possible. So basically, I would love to play a Keytar, grab it, put it back on the stand, grab another one, play that one, put it back on the stand, grab another one. Now, in the 80s, a lot of MIDI controllers were built with wires in them. Now, this is the Roland Axis Keytar. It is built to be tethered into an external controller or an external keyboard, an external sound module. Basically, you're supposed to play this running around on stage tethered to something else. Now, what if you didn't need to be tethered to something else? What if you could run around the stage untethered? Hence, wireless MIDI. Now, most Keytars from the 1980s are not synthesizers in and of themselves, even though my favorite necklace Keytars, they're all synthesizers in and of themselves. They're not MIDI controllers. Now, my favorite Keytar of the 1980s is standalone MIDI controller itself. This guy Come on. The Korg RK100 makes no sound on its own. You have to plug it in to a sound module, another keyboard, in order to control that keyboard or that sound module. Now, what if I could run around on stage and not be tethered to anything and play multiple keyboards at once from this guy? How on earth would I do that? It is possible. And I've done a little research to show you how possible it is. Now, when I was doing research into wireless MIDI, I found a couple of cool wireless MIDI modules that I was really interested in, and that I thought could really work with my needs. Now, since I really love 80s gear, and I want to play with the spirit of the 80s when I play my own music, I use a lot of that old technology. I don't want to go all, I don't want to go play with the DAW. Everything is usually, I'm using 80s hardware and 80s sequencers, totally DAW-less, totally without a computer. Now that's tricky when I want to do wireless MIDI. Now what are my needs for wireless MIDI? Well, since I have a whole bunch of synthesizers that aren't hooked up to a sequencer, if I want to play multiple keyboards at the same time, you're going to need them hooked up to either a sequencer or some kind of echoing loop box. Now, when I was looking into wireless MIDI and how I could run around my my Keytar synthesizer studio without being tethered to everything, I found two that I thought might help me out really well. Now, first, I have the Roland WM-1. I thought that this was going to totally change my studio. Now, what can this guy do? Not only can it use MIDI on the back of your keyboard or your MIDI controller to control other MIDI devices, but you can also hook it up to your iOS device. If you use a tablet, if you're all on the DAW, you can use your MIDI controller via this little guy to basically play whatever music you want to off of your MIDI controller via your computer. Now, this guy is the CME Widi Master, and this one is the one I'm in love with, and I will tell you why, and of course I will explain why I like this one more than this one. Okay, now, right next to me, these synthesizers all have their own unique abilities, all their unique sounds, all their unique powers. Again, I'm going to use these three just to show you exactly what I mean when I talk about what I would like to do when I play several of these all at the same time. Now let's start with the Korg Poly 800. Now, the Korg Poly 800 is a polyphonic analog synthesizer from the 1980s. I'm not even going to go into what year it was made. There are awesome cool features on it. You can edit the sound as you go. I promise to do a video on sound editing on all my keyboards. I will do that within the new year. But one of my biggest, coolest things that I really love about this, not just the sound editing, not that it's an 80s analog keyboard, but I love that it has its own sequencer inside of it. Now, that's the biggest difference between this synthesizer and these synthesizers, is this one has a built-in sequencer, these ones do not. So how am I going to play several synthesizers at the same time if I only have one sequencer? Well, I happen to have two other MIDI sequencers over here. Now, if I want to run around, let's say on a stage, and hit a sequence without playing, I could run around autonomously, still holding this guy. Now how do I do it? With one of these. Ooh. Little weak signal there. Now, when I got these wireless MIDI controllers, I was really expecting wireless MIDI to be just like wireless guitar systems. Now, when you buy a wireless guitar system, it usually comes like this. You will have two of them together, they're sold together. One will usually be your transmitter, the other one will usually be your receiver. Now you plug in one into your instrument, the other one into your amp, and that replaces a cable. You don't need a cable anymore. Now let's say I have keyboards and I want them hooked up to a sequencer, but I don't want to have a cable in between that sequencer. This is when wireless MIDI comes into play. This is when you have an old school MIDI cable and you have a wireless system and you combine them together. Together, that will create something akin to these. And now I'm going to show you how these work without an iOS system or a tablet. And I hope you dig. By the way, I'm super excited about this review. I've seen a couple of reviews on both of these products, but I've never seen them compared with each other, so I'm happy to be one of the first. Now, again, I thought that the Roland WM-1 was going to change my whole studio. I thought that it would make all of these autonomous and all hook them together, and I thought that it would be really affordable, and I thought wrong, and I will show you why. Now, just like a lot of MIDI controllers and MIDI systems, you can basically use your wireless MIDI just like a MIDI cable. You can control several different modules or sound or synthesizers at once just by using these in between each and every one of them, just like you're using a daisy chain. Now, let's show you an example of this. Now, the Roland WM-1 looks like this. It has your 5-pin MIDI cables in and out. It has little pointy, I don't know if you could see these little designs. There's a point in and a point out on each one. The way I remember the easiest is the one with the little blinking light is your MIDI out on the Roland WM-1. Now, these are powered by AA batteries, which is kind of nifty, which is pretty much just like your guitar wireless system. These are powered by I think either AA or AAA battery. Some of them are rechargeable. That's what I really like about wireless guitar systems. And I'm pretty sure there's rechargeable these. I believe that the Yamaha version is rechargeable, but I am going to show you why I like the CME Widi Master way bunches more than the Roland WM-1. Now let's start with the Roland WM-1. It needs batteries to work. Let's put batteries in. By the way, I got 2 of these because honestly, I thought that these were sold in pairs. I was totally torqued off when I learned that they're not sold in pairs. I thought I bought 2 pairs of these. It turns out I only bought 1 pair. These are ridiculously priced. I really thought that this was going to change my studio. It didn't really change my studio. It just changed my point of view on this product. Even though this product does everything that it promises that it can do, I haven't checked out its iOS abilities, only because I am a DAW-less musician. I want to do everything without a computer. I'd rather depend upon my ability to play an instrument than my ability to control a computer. Now, batteries are both set in. We're going to link these both. I believe you can see one is blinking, the other one is not blinking. I hope this battery is in correctly. It should be blinking. I am going to try to link them and show you how they work together. So, wireless MIDI hooked up. See the little blinky lighty? That is hooked up to the MIDI out, and I also have it hooked up to this Roland sequencer, MIDI out right there. Now, let's say you have two keytars, one has a sequencer, one does not. This will help. Now, I'm going to play the sequence from the Poly 800, and let's see if I can't add a sequence with this. So, not bad, huh? Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Wireless MIDI. Now, this one, the CME Widi Master, I like this one way better, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to show you the similarities and the differences. Now, just like the Roland WM-1, the Widi Master can be used to control an iOS device. You could use it on your iPad. You could use it on your laptop. Also, you could use it in between different Widi Masters. Now, this is why I wanted it, because you could use it just like a MIDI cable, just like the other one. But you know what's cooler about this? It doesn't require batteries, and it's at least $10, almost $20 cheaper depending on the listing. I'm kind of hooked to eBay. If you look for both of these on eBay, you could do a price comparison and see which ones are cheaper, which ones that you think will work with your needs. Now, let's show you what this one looks like and what it can do. Now, the differences between both of these, they're subtle, but they're major, dude. Now, with the other one, you need to put in AAA batteries to power the Roland WM-1. Now, with this one, you plug it in to itself. By the way, this is the MIDI out with the symbol pointing out. This is always the MIDI in with the little cable. Now you plug these two together, and the little MIDI device is powered by your MIDI out via your MIDI device. So basically, your MIDI device is powering your little wireless MIDI cable. So basically, you don't need batteries. No fuss, no muss. You honestly don't even need to press anything in order to find the signal, in order for them to link up. All you have to do is plug it into each other. Now, this guy is my Yamaha DX100 Keytar. Gonna do the same deal. MIDI out, MIDI in. MIDI out is always the one that has this little pointy out. Gonna plug that into the MIDI out. This powers your little MIDI cable, plug it into the MIDI in, and I should be hooked up to this other sequencer here. Now, I'm going to play that same sequence, but hopefully write a sequence with this guy. Let's see how it sounds. Let's see if it blends. What if I wanted to play one of those keyboards with my favorite keytar? So, this is the RK100. It's a 1985-ish MIDI controller. These were never meant to be run. You can't really run around on stage untethered with this until now, until the technology exists now, and I will show you how. Now, starting with the Roland WM-1, we're going to take the MIDI out. We're going to plug it in to the into my Korg RK100, and we're going to try to control this Yamaha CZ1000 without wires. Let's see what it does. Here we go. This is my Korg RK100, and it is now controlling that guy. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay, now with this. Again, this guy wirelessly almost wirelessly. It's controlling that guy. Totally would come in handy in the 80s. Totally would fall in love with that in the 80s. Now, ups and downs to the Roland WM-1. Now, you need batteries to run it. You got this funky cable thing to run it. You can turn it from master to slave to master, back and forth without trying to, change the signal. It'll do it automatically. You can control up to more than one device with this. If you have multiple of these, you can control up to 3-4 devices all off of one master device. Just like a MIDI cable, daisy chain to other sound modules or synthesizers, but without cables, all wireless. Now, we can do the exact same with the CME Widi Master. Check it out. We unplug this guy. We're gonna grab the other Widi Master. Here we go. So you see it. Now a little bit abracadabra here. Since we are using only the MIDI out, all we need is this little module. We're not gonna need this right now. Now, as you can see, no wires, just a little MIDI master right there. Now this guy should be controlling this. My Yamaha DX100. Let's see how the DX100 sounds first. Okay, now the the guitar mic's a little scratchy, but you can tell that that's the sound of that. Now, let's play it with my RK100 via wireless MIDI. Ooh, scratchy, scratchy. That's not the wireless MIDI's fault, that's actually the wireless guitar system. But, as you can see, the CME wireless MIDI doesn't need that little external wire if it's not, if you're not using a MIDI in. It can work all on its own, no batteries, it's powering itself off of the electricity of your MIDI controller. It's kind of obvious to see which one is my favorite between the two. Now, again, I wanted to go wireless MIDI in order to reduce some of the cables in my Keytar collection. Now, I thought this was going to save the day. It's ridiculously more expensive than I thought it would be. I got really lucky when I started to look at different listings of wireless MIDI systems. Now, I believe Yamaha makes one as well, but as far as the Yamaha system, I don't believe that it can talk to each other. As in, I don't believe that you can buy two of the Yamaha systems and they will control each other master-slave wise, just like a MIDI cable. I could be wrong. I don't want to delve into being on the DAW. I like being DAW-less. I like hooking myself up to a recorder. I like old style sequencers. I like the frustration of trying to get my sequences to match with the beat. And when they fall off, I love struggling with trying to put the timing back together. I know it sounds silly, but it's something that I've really fallen in love with. Now, at first, I was going to do a bad review of this, but I'm happy that I waited, and I waited after I finished my trip, because I got to compare it with the CME version. And this one, again, if you look up the different listings, this one goes up to maybe $10 to $20 cheaper depending on the listing. Again, you don't need batteries for this. You can control up to multiple devices. This one does everything this does, but cheaper. They both work off Bluetooth. They're both really, really easy to control. You don't have to do anything to link them together, really, other than push one button on this guy. This guy, it's not a bad product. It does everything that it promises it can do. It's just a little bit more expensive than I wanted it to be. If I really wanted to connect everything wireless MIDI, which I will probably do eventually, I don't want to do it with this product. It's going to cost several $100s. This one, I would save several $100s buying this instead of this to go wireless MIDI in my Keytar collection. Now there are one or two Keytars that I will still keep on a tether, mostly because they were built to be on a tether. When it comes to the Roland Axes or the Axes, they will still stay on their tether. I like them on the tether. This guy was born to run around, because it's a lightning bolt actually. This guy was born to run around without a tether, and it will stay that way. I hope everybody is being happy and healthy and safe out there. It is New Year's Eve. I am not going out to party. I'm gonna have a nice chill day, night, evening, safe and happy at home. They're having a big party on Las Vegas Boulevard on New Year's Eve in Las Vegas. I don't recommend it. We're still living in COVID. I recommend everybody continue to wash your hands, continue to look out for one another. When you're out in public, continue to wear a mask. If you're able to, get the vaccine when you can. I can't wait till I can get my vaccine. My sweetheart is a disease investigator, just got their first injection of the vaccine, and in 3 weeks they get their second injection. That makes me feel all the more happier and makes me feel steady and worry a lot less for my sweetheart, considering that they're a disease investigator and they do live interviews as part of their work. Now, I hope everybody is being safe and healthy and happy out there. I wish everybody a happy, safe, healthy New Year's Eve, and of course a happy, healthy New Year's. Look out for one another. If you do New Year's resolutions, try your best to keep them. The one that I want to keep the most is to do my best to call out people if I see something wrong. If you see somebody out there who's mean to another individual, call them out on it. 9 times out of 10, if you call somebody out on being a general jerk to another person, they will be receptive to it. It's only that 1 time out of 10 that you'll get a Karen or a total Ken who ain't gonna listen to anything you say, even if they're totally being out of line. So if you see somebody being disrespectful to another human being, say something. I challenge you. It will make the biggest difference. Human beings were made to look out for each other. I love music. I believe that music heals. I promise to play a little bit more of the songs that I wrote going into the new year. I'm so happy to share my love of gear with you guys. Health, hugs, happiness from Las Vegas.